So I think it's time to begin. Hello and welcome to WID's Global Disability and Disaster Town Hall, everyone. I'm Kat Zigmont. I'm WID's Director of Operations. As I said a moment ago, I'd like to announce that we are recording this meeting. It is also being streamed live on Facebook on WID's Facebook page, which is facebook.com, World Institute on Disability, all one word. And I can go ahead and cut and paste that link into the chat right now in case anyone is interested. Okay. So for starters, as some of you have noticed, everybody has been muted. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how today will go. After we present our opening remarks to frame the disaster landscape for people with disabilities and disability-led organizations, in a very short while, we will open up the webinar to those of you who want to share your experience. If you'd like to speak, you can submit a request via the Zoom Q&A or chat features, which we are monitoring. Simply say, "I'd like to speak," to be added to the queue. We will also be monitoring the Facebook Live feed and can answer questions or relay short messages on people's behalf. If you are selected to speak, please begin by saying your name, where you're from, and the name of your organization. We want to try and learn from as many people as possible, so please try to keep your remarks to 2 to 3 minutes. To outline the issue you're raising and potential solutions. Ultimately, we want to learn what disability-led organizations need to continue their operations and meet the needs of people with disabilities in this COVID-19 pandemic, in other disasters you've experienced and other disasters sure to come. We also want to hear about your experiences in seeking and obtaining disaster relief funding for preparing for disasters and your operations during disasters, and your involvement in the community recovery. We understand, we want to understand what's working and what's not working. Also, if you are selected, please be sure to unmute yourself with *6 or clicking on the microphone icon in the Zoom toolbar. Speak loudly and slowly for the captioner, the interpreters, and all of our participants. We would love for speakers to open their video feed, which is the camera icon on the Zoom toolbar. However, if you do, you might find that it reduces the quality of your internet connection. When it's time to speak, I will change your status from attendee to panelist. When this happens, there will be a brief interruption in your connection, but don't worry, it's only 2 or 3 second transition and then you'll be back in the webinar. This can be surprising, so we wanted to let you know about it in advance. When you're a panelist, you will then be able to share your video and tell your story. Additionally, we will have 3 survey poll questions that we'll be asking all of you to answer. When the poll is launched, you will receive a notification on your device that will include the question and multiple choice answers. This is an accessible process, and I will also be reading the questions and answers for you to choose from out loud as it is captioned and signed. Everyone will have time to make a selection, and when all have answered, we will share the results. You can add your responses to the poll in the chat if the poll isn't working for you. Lastly, we do hope you will share and tweet about this WID Town Hall listening session and the very important issues that you will all raise today. We would love it if you use the hashtag WIDTownHallC19 on various social media platforms. Again, that's hashtag WIDTownHallC19, and I can also put that in the chat. I think that's everything to get us started. I'll turn it over to Marcy Roth, WID's wonderful Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer who will kick us off.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much, Kat, and thanks to everybody who is joining us here. I'm Marcy Roth, and I am the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the World Institute on Disability. WID is a fabulous organization that was launched back in 1983 by Judy Heumann, Ed Roberts, and Joan Leon. It's an organization that was founded by people with disabilities and intentionally designed to be one of the first global disability rights organizations, led by and as we say, by, for, and about people with disabilities. And we are extremely proud of the heritage and legacy of the organization. And we're especially grateful to have the opportunity to bring so many people together today. We have folks joining us from over 20 countries, and the intention of the discussion today, which we expect will be the first of many, is to talk about the experiences of organizations led by people with disabilities. In some places, they're called disability-led organizations. In some places, they're called disabled persons organizations. And in other places, organizations of persons with disabilities. I will typically be using the term disability-led organizations, but you might also hear people referring to DPOs and OPDs. It all really makes, it all really means the very same thing. Organizations that are by, for, and about people with disabilities. And we are focusing specifically on the circumstances that disability-led organizations and people with disabilities experience before, during, and after disasters. And most particularly, we're going to be focusing on the experiences that people are having in the midst of the horrible and devastating pandemic. We are well aware that people with disabilities are disproportionately impacted by this virus. And although frequently it is referred to impacting older people, people who are described as being the most vulnerable, and people with underlying conditions, we know that most of the time we're referring to people with disabilities when we use those euphemisms. Now, I'm going to pause for a moment because I understand that Facebook Live is not working. And so I'm just going to hold for a minute and see if we are able to get that fixed. Do we have any update on Facebook Live?
Hi, Marcy. This is the third time I have stopped the stream and started it again. I get all the way to where it is about to stream, and then I have sort of a black window that's working. So I'm not sure what's happening. I'm keeping an eye on it, and I'm trying to stop the live stream and start it again.
Okay, thank you, Kat. And maybe we can have some other folks take a look. So what I don't want to do is spend all my time talking. Really, we're here to listen. We want to understand what's happening for disability-led organizations and the operations that your organizations are able to continue to provide. We're very concerned about what's happening for people with disabilities who, for whom the current circumstances have had a devastating impact on their, every aspect of their lives. And so we're also particularly interested in hearing about the experiences that disabled persons organizations are having in accessing rapid response funding, and the experiences that you're having in being able to participate in the larger humanitarian relief initiatives. So I am joined by some begin by having them speak a little bit about their experiences. And we are joined by folks who run organizations, the only two organizations in the world that focus on the rights of people with disabilities before, during, and after disasters. That's their entire focus. And one of the organizations headquartered in Peñaflor, Chile. And this organization is called ANG Inclusiva. And the executive director is Carlos Kaiser. And the other organization I know quite intimately, the Partnership for Inclusive Disaster Strategies. And that organization is housed in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And the co-executive directors are Herman Perotti and Shaylin Sluzales. So let's first turn to Kat before we have either of them speak. Kat is going to lead us through a poll. This will be our first poll of the day. And once we have taken the poll, then we're going to hear from Herman, Shaylin, and Carlos. Kat, over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to lead us in our first poll. I will launch it right now. And now I will read the question. Do you believe disability-led organizations are left out of disaster relief funding from government, corporations, and foundations? There are 3 options for answers: yes, definitely, sometimes, and no. And I can see results coming in. Very exciting, and we'll just wait a moment while people are voting. All right. Let's see. Well, look at that. The voting has slowed down. Marcy, it does look like the majority of folks have answered. So I will go ahead and end the poll and share the results with everybody.
Sure, Kat.
So
Go ahead.
Yeah. So it looks like most people voted yes, definitely at 64%. 37% said sometimes, and 0 said no. I think this information is incredibly telling. And I'll throw it back to you, Marcy.
Thank you, and wow. Yes, that is very telling. So, oh, I need to start my video. Here we go. Okay. So extremely helpful, and that, as Kat said, should help us moving forward to have an understanding that, you know, in a group of close to 200 people, no one found that the current funding process for disability-led organizations was adequate. So now we're going to, as I had promised, hear from Carlos Kaiser from Inclusiva. And Carlos is a dear friend and colleague who has been making his mark globally for many, many, many years. And so, Carlos, I'm going to turn over to you. I know people will be interested to hear your experience.
Thanks, Marcy. I would like to say that it's an incredible honor to me to speak to people here. Also to say that with Marcy, we has been working from Sendai framework, and also the great experience I have with Herman and Shailene. They're two leaders, people that put action, not just words. And we need this facta non verba. I mean, to work, not just to speak. Our experience as Inclusiva, we are a Chilean NGO, is that we are working in multiple level fronts. For instance, we are working with local governments in Chile because they are, how can I say it? They work faster than the country's government. You know that they are faster than the central government because they are in contact with people. They know what's happening here. So we are working with them in protocols, systems to deliver food, humanitarian help, also for people to get access to all the implements they need to face the pandemic. We are not the ones giving them the boxes, humanitarian boxes, you know, kits to distribute to people. We are just saying that the way they can work, and we are funding resources together. We have some little funding from private sector. We have some findings from volunteers, and also raised some funds from people that just donate, regular people, you know. We are not talking about millionaires. We're not just talking about people that lives in their communities and they want to share. We are working also with the central government in Chile. We provide them a lot of information to classify the data. We produce surveys. We produce interviews with people. We have made an exercise to work with the community-based organizations of people with disabilities. for they to say directly to our authorities what they need. We have been having some problems on this because sometimes the central government don't want to listen to the things we are saying, but we had some help from some ministers that they are supporting us. They're secretaries of state that they say, well, we are on board of it. Is that we are here in Chile, so the thing is that we are looking for real solutions, not just fancy words. And that's the problem that we had been facing with the government, that sometimes they're like a lot of, how can I say, high level commissions, a lot of documents that we provide them with those things, but we provide them for them to use this. Then we have been working with different governments apart from the Chilean governments. We reached an agreement with Panama government, with Colombian government. Also, we are working with Ecuador. And the thing is that we are just looking for action and they are start doing things. We improve their materials. We were just saying them about accessibility and they really appreciate this. The third level we are working is with the United Nations. Thanks also to Marcy, Shailene, and Herman. We send letters to the Secretary General of the United Nations, and they are using some of our ideas there. Also, we are working with the Pan American Health Organization, and we are providing different services. We are working with Peru, with Chile, and different universities, because we are providing psychological help, because many people, as you know, we are facing psychological issues. So I'm going to finish my intervention because I believe that I took more than 3 minutes and that's not the idea. Herman and Shailene got to say tremendous things because they're, as I told you before, they are two leaders, people that are really working for a better world. So I finished saying that we are working on indicators and things because we need to make them accountable for the things they are doing and for the things they are not. So thanks for this opportunity. And Marcy, you are doing a tremendous job for the world. Thanks for inviting me to be here.
Thank you very much, Carlos. This is Marcy speaking. We are a mighty team and we have much work ahead of us, but I'm happy to see that we have so many people joining us that I think our work may be a little less lonely. I think we have a lot of folks who share our passion and are ready to work together to disrupt exclusion. I'm now going to turn to two people who I have worked extremely closely with for a number of years and who I remember early on took a real interest in these issues and have never looked back. So Herman and Shailene, I'm going to turn the mic over to you from the Partnership for Inclusive Disaster Strategies.
This is Shailene, and thank you, Marcy. Hello, everyone, and thank you for having us. My name is Shailene Sluzalis, and alongside me is Herman Parodi, and we are the co-executive directors of the Partnership for Inclusive Disaster Strategies. The partnership was founded in 2016 by Portlight Strategies and our very own Marcy Roth. And the partnership is the only United States-based disability-led nonprofit organization with a mission of, apologies. Our dogs would like.
I'm sure that Shailene will be back in a moment.
This is Shailene, so sorry. Sorry about that. This is Shailene. So as I was saying, the partnership is the only United States-based disability-led nonprofit with a mission of equal access to emergency and disaster programs and services before, during, and after disasters for people with disabilities, older adults, and people with access and functional needs. And we're able to achieve our mission through our unwavering support for local disability organizations, community engagement, organizing, and leadership development, advocacy and public policy, training and technical assistance, research and education, and disability-led disaster response and community resilience. As Marcy was alluding to, when Herman and I got involved with with this area of disability rights was through Portlight's deployment of us to Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria, being one of the first disability-led disaster response first responders. We are the nation's experts on disability rights, accessibility, and inclusion throughout all phases of disaster operations and emergencies. And our members represent disability orgs and their affiliates in every congressional district in the country and virtually every US community. So we are the boots and wheels on the ground response, community resilience and capacity builders, and disability rights experts before, during, and after disasters.
This is Herman. As in every disaster, this pandemic has become a disaster due to the lack of all of our governments properly including us in the planning process ahead of time. Again and again, this has resulted in now worldwide, we can safely say that 60% of the deaths are coming from long-term congregate settings. It's across the states and it's across the globe. The reason for this is because people with disabilities are not included in the preparation for emergency management, public health emergency planning, and truly the safety nets that our governments have created have been for us and not with us. We stand strongly on the legacy of our founders across generations. Nothing about us without us is our prime and focus. In the United States, we have been having daily calls since February 28th. We have done calls to actions to the White House task forces. We have made numerous attempts to reach the federal government to little avail. Individuals in the CDC, HHS, and some in FEMA actually have come and given their personal piece, but as the decision makers, little voice. Congress, again, it seems to be focusing on workers and very little on persons with disabilities. And this can be reflected across the governments. We will continue to expand on a resource list that you can find on our website, disasterstrategies.org, and reach out to us at DART, D-A-R-T, at disasterstrategies.org to get more involved. But I have to say, the nursing home industries, the status quo's powers that be are the ones putting in the monies to the decision makers, and DPOs, civil society, we're spending all our time and energy on operations to achieve the best we can for our people. But we need more. We need those with the deep pockets to look at the good work coming out of organizations like ONG Inclusiva, with the partnership, and so many more, to please expand our capacity so we can do more. Thank you, WIT, for putting this on today.
Thank you very much, Herman. Thank you very much, Shaylin. I think the work that you all are doing and your singular focus on disability and disaster really keeps us all moving in the same direction. And the World Institute on Disability is really fortunate to have both of your organizations working so hard to try and change things. And we're glad to be working together moving forward. In a few minutes, we are going to open up to participants who would be interested in speaking about your experiences as a disability-led organization. But before we do that, I think we are ready for our second poll. And I'm going to turn to Kat.
Hi, thanks, Marcy. All right, poll number 2. Let's get to it. I will launch it now. So this poll reads, during this COVID-19 pandemic, do disability-led organizations have what they need to serve their local communities? And the answers are the same as last time. Yes, definitely, sometimes, and no. And I can see participants answering right now. I'll give everyone a few minutes, or a minute. Got a few more answering. All right, Marcia, looks like we have a majority. Shall I share the polls?
That would be great, Kat. Thank you. Please do.
Wonderful. Let's do it. So I'm going to go ahead and end polling. Last chance. Share results. All right, so the results are as follows. 2% said yes, definitely. 47% said sometimes, and 51% said no. Wow. Again, incredibly good information to have and alarming results.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're going to have to really think about those outcomes. Super, super helpful. So now we're going to open up to the folks who have joined the town hall. And I know that we have our first speaker all ready to go. I think we have a number of speakers who have asked to be included. For those of you who haven't yet requested to speak, please do so either in the Q&A or in the chat. Unfortunately, Facebook is misbehaving, so we're not successfully streaming to Facebook. However, we are recording, as you all know, and so the folks who were hoping to join us on Facebook will be able to view the town hall later on. And as soon as we have the captioning cleaned up and applied with the right timing, we'll be posting this on YouTube. So we're going to first turn to Dulal, and if we could cue Dulal to speak, that would be great. Abdus Sattar.
Hi, Marcia. Marcy, thank you very much for giving me opportunity to participate this very important, meeting and timely you organize it. I appreciate for that. So my name is Abdus Sattar Dulal. I am the Executive Director of a National Disabled People's Organization. It called short name BPKS and full name Bangladesh Pratibandhi Kullan Samiti. So it's a disabled people's organization, national organization. We have a 2,000 grassroots organization, and about 60% of the country we covered by this organization in country to promote their rights and development of disabled people of Bangladesh. And we have a historical engagement from international to grassroots level. So in regards of the COVID-19, and this is a big, I want to say that the big damage for our people with disabilities, those who is developed by last 20-25 years time, especially their employment, their economic development, those who are engaged in the, like a grocery shop, like a farming, they're doing like this types of business, and they marry a, establish a family, have a children. So, and in our organization, within our network, 21,000 family that lead by disabled people's income, and they most of their income is now is damaged because they are based on the daily income basis. They are so this is a big disaster. I want to say that. So, and this and they also, this affect not only damage their business, this affect also the, the some of the disabled people, they sell their basic properties, they have a small properties, even they sell that properties. And some of the disabled leaders tell me that their children is losing the weight even because of the lack of the food, basic food and basic needs and basic, some urgency that they don't have in this time. So that is, I think, what I see that is a big, problem for, and because, and also due to the types of disability, our condition. I myself is a wheelchair users. The OA of relief program is continued in country. We are not able to reach into the place to, and sometimes it is a very crowd, to participate there and to collect the relief items. It's very challenging. And for a wheelchair, for a blind person, for a hearing disability, they are not able to, know. There is information is not available for them. And so these are, the major, I think, is a big gap. And we are DPOs, and DPOs is, UNCRPD article number 32 is advised to the all donors to ensure that DPOs should be a key partner of the development partner donors. So, and most of the development partner, including United Nations, is ignore our partnership in their signing agreement with the other partners, including the government. So that is, I see this big problem that United Nations, I mean the UNCRPD Article 32 is not implemented properly. So that is one of the gap, I think, is if that implemented. So the DPI, I mean DPOs and organization like you and an organization like us have the access to build our capacity to be strengthened, and so that we are able to address these types of crises. And government and these many in this crisis, most of the people busy for non-disabled people, and even civil society organization is disappear. Humanitarian organization is disappear in my country, what I see. And even organization who is called donor, they also not, them I don't see the inaction to support in this, especially in this crisis time. So what I see that, we need so much to, to address the income, the daily income level we need to restore for disabled people in country, and especially in the grassroots level, so that disabled people are rehabilitate, to restart their business, to, you know, to survive. So that is what I see is a big, you know, need in the, as you understand that, you know, it is also, diffuse is very important for, you know, not just advocacy. I want to see this, we act as a development organization, human rights organization, holistic development organization. So that, I think I want to say that is very important to be partnered with any development partner in this regard in future. And also, and we have a plan to organize a national event where all stakeholder, all policy representative will participate and development partner will participate there. In this year, we have a plan to organize that event to, you know, to make sure the COVID-19 policy and action are inclusive, are ensured that disabled people are included in
Excellent.
the action.
Thank
So,
you. Yeah, thank you.
and thank you very much for your time and giving me this time to talk here. You know,
Absolutely.
it's a huge issue, actually,
Yes, it is.
huge issue,
Yes, it is.
unthinkable issue. It not, you know, possible to talk just by the few minutes, you know. But I appreciate for you organizing this big, you know, big meeting in international level. Thank you very much, Marcy.
Thank you. And this is the beginning of the discussion, certainly not the end of it. So
Right.
we'll continue to work together to try and shift that paradigm. Yeah, absolutely. Kat, do we have our next speaker?
We sure do, Marcy. We have Alec, and Alec is from Autistic Reality. Alec, go ahead.
Awesome, thanks. Hi, Alec.
Hi, thank you. I want to thank all of you. I want to thank you, Marcy, for what your wonderful organization does. And I want to give a shout out to my friend, Judy Human, for helping start this organization. Also, before I get started, I want a big fat thanks to the Partnership for Inclusive Disaster Strategies. I admit that the stimulus money was not just selfishly spent. I gave a sizable donation to them, and I'd like to encourage everyone, please do that. Now, I prepared remarks because I know that this is a big day. So I'm Alec Frazier, and I'm the director of Autistic Reality, an advocacy organization based, well, wherever I am. I technically live in Tacoma Park, Maryland. A lot of my work is in DC, but it's elsewhere as well. In addition to disability and human rights advocacy, I actually do a lot of pop culture criticism, and I make a case to the world for disability inclusion in the arts, and I have a podcast and a YouTube channel where I interview celebrities, and I always ask them about disability inclusion in the arts. You can find me online at nothingaboutuswithoutus.net, or autisticreality@nothingaboutuswithoutus.net is my email. On Twitter, I am at Autistic Reality. Now, to get to the matter, I'm going to try to make this as brief as possible. I've been getting a bit of work done to further the disability cause during this quarantine. I'm a member of the National Council on Independent Living's Education Committee. We had a few agenda items. In one, we wanted to ensure that the Secretary of Education does not ask Congress for any waivers to the Section 504. In very good news, she has not asked for those waivers. There are two waivers for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which she has asked for. Here they are. One waiver she asked for addresses the timeline of evaluations for young children who are preparing for transition from Part C, which means early intervention, to birth and to 3 years of age, to Part B, which is preschool through high school. This waiver would allow the young children to stay in Part C, that's early intervention birth to 3 years of age, until the required face-to-face evaluation can be conducted once the epidemic is over, or once we can manage this. A second waiver recommendation that she made addresses personnel development scholarships. The waiver would allow a deferral of the work or repayment requirements for service obligations interrupted by the COVID-19 emergency. Those are the only two waivers that the Department of Education has asked Congress for, considering that this administration's education department has systematically tried to dismantle public education. This is actually very good news. Okay, another thing the Education Committee spoke about is FAPE, which stands for Free and Appropriate Public Education. The U.S. government has guaranteed that students with disabilities get a free, appropriate public education. A number of suggestions were floated, but I had one in particular. I suggested that schools and districts keep a staff of counselors, case managers, and special education professionals on hand as essential employees during this crisis. A number of families with a disabled child, or with disabled parents, I might add, do not have the wherewithal to a free, appropriate public education on their own without schools, and it is vital that they have caseworkers to rely upon during this time. Disability rights are human rights, are civil rights, and that means that the respective professionals should be considered as essential employees. Another matter that I'm quite personally passionate about is making sure that the students and the adults have personal encounters to rely upon. Many of us, including people like me with autism, bipolar, and other such disabilities, may slip into a very dangerous depression if we do not have regular human interaction. I understand the physical health risks, but for many of us with intellectual and developmental disabilities, mental health risks are often just as great. Now I have one big paragraph left, and I'm going to get through it as quickly as possible. I don't want to waste your time. I've also been very involved in advocacy for grocery shopping. I was quoted extensively in an article for the Washington City paper. Individuals with mobility impairments and immunodeficiency disorders are not the only people with trouble getting to the store. I have at least 15 disabilities and cannot drive. In addition, interpersonal interactions are often tough for me and are definitely tougher for many other people with autism and other developmental disabilities. This greatly impacts our shopping. Ever since this crisis started, online shopping from platforms such as Instacart has been nearly impossible. In the article, I suggest that such platforms allow an option to recognize one's disability, giving us a great deal of priority in shopping. In addition, I am aware that Instacart and other platforms are finally allowing new options for added flexibility in delivery. For example, Instacart normally has you schedule a delivery, which since this crisis started, could be over a week in advance. Now, however, they are allowing you the soonest available slot, which is especially good for the inevitable pre-scheduled slots that clear up. The food stamp amount has been temporarily more than doubled from the baseline for March and April. However, people on food stamps cannot currently pay for online grocery orders with food stamps. Advocacy organizations are working with many state governments to override that, as that portion of food stamp legislation is a state issue, not often federal. Much of this legislation currently precludes people from using their allotment on online grocery orders. And once again, you can find me on facebook.com/autisticreality. You can find me at www.nothingaboutuswithoutus.net. And my email address is nice and long. It is autisticreality@nothingaboutuswithoutus.net. And on Twitter, I am at Autistic Reality. Many thanks for you having me here, and I don't want to tie up the lines for too much longer, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Alec. Very much appreciate your input. One quick question. Have you been receiving any funding for the work of your organization?
No. And actually, when you said that you had that poll question, our organizations, disability-led organizations, are they suffering under this crisis? I said sometimes, because I can do what I need often by taking a phone call, attending a meeting like this via Zoom or something like that, or going into the district and making nice with some faces and building business. I recognize, however, that a lot of people require a lot more. And to tell the truth, if I myself had funding, had a steady source of funding, that would really increase my reach and my range.
Thank you, Alec. Appreciate
Sure.
it. Kat, I think we have someone else up next. Oh, I think maybe our next speaker had to leave. Who's up next, please?
Yeah. Helen Walsh will be speaking next. I just promoted her to panelist.
Very good. Hi,
Helen, are
Helen.
you there? There you are. Wonderful.
My name's Helen Walsh. I run a project for many years that's been called Diverse Disability Media. It's a project that is a business, but it specifically was to address communications at the start of the digital transition. So first off, though, before I talk more about myself, which I don't want to, is I just wanted to thank WID and all the organizations and speakers too that are going to be on this call providing us information. This is the vital area of having a platform to communicate with each other, and having interpreters and captioning and attention to access and seeing this all happen here is what we need. And this is a fine example of good use of communications during a crisis, COVID, or any crisis for that matter. My experience here in Berkeley, believe it or not, in areas of communications, working with the city, county, our state does have interpreters, ASL interpreters or whatnot. But the accessibility of communications and the networking with our disability organizations are not succinct. I'm finding many city entities or whatnot not being aware of WID, not being aware of the disaster strategies, not being aware nationally. Mind you, I do this work nationally too. So I find myself taking that awkward step of making the introduction as a person who's just here in Berkeley, who's running this project all by herself as one person. But this is what I've studied over a duration of time since I placed myself in media during the digital transition in the PBS and NPR stations, and worked with KQED to create the celebration of disability culture, and helped out in marketing with Jeff Clark, formerly, who was the CEO. And I put a template at the station I was working on, which allowed for the opportunity to get disability into a diversity initiatives, which I thought was really important. And I did know that the community as well. So I was just one link area providing that. But in the area of currently, lives are being lost across the United States. We're not providing proper ASL vetted interpreters for the deaf and hard of hearing communities that use ASL. We're not providing transcripts for deaf and blind individuals to gain that information. We also did not realize during the disaster, by cutting communications funds or never providing it, which should have been under the ADA educational areas, disallowing people to actually have the funding within our communities to implement and work with the city or county or state or national areas, federal government, to help with communications that are not only cost effective, but they're more universal and inclusive if you apply them. Things should be during a disaster easy to read. So it shouldn't be an afterthought, not to provide considerations to usability to people with intellectual disabilities. I believe these areas we should be addressing. I'm determined to address them, and I will during this COVID disaster crisis. But I think as a community, what we need to do is we need to change policy. DOJ agrees that communication should be accessible, but I think we need to take action to make sure within our that there's funding, one, federal government to do this, so we need to push for that. Two, we need to make sure our cities, states, and county governments also is pushed. So I think we need to address it on a tier level. I do believe there's hope. You know, with the digital divide, there's a lot of people who are low income. When you talk about inclusive and active, you're basically addressing all communities and our most vulnerable populations. That includes senior citizens, people in low income housing, and our unhoused. So that's what I wanted to say. I wanted to say we do have ability to make a difference. We need to, what we could start is by networking better our organizations with different areas. And hey, it's okay if you don't know all the technical components. I'm constantly learning them too. I'm not, I'm an expert, but I'm not the expert. I think we're all leaders in this. And I think communicating and providing each other information is going to help. So that's what I wanted to say. And I wanted to thank everyone here. And gosh, I wish this would be on the news tonight, not because I'm here, that nothing to do with me, it has to do with, this is an example of what I'd like the future to look like so that we can save lives.
Touche. Thank you very much, Helen. Kat, do we have our next speaker ready?
We sure do. Just promoted her to panelist. Her name is Erin Brown, and she's located in the Bahamas.
Great.
Let's see, Erin, are you there?
We'll, yeah, we'll unmute you in a moment. Erin has been a fabulous leader and partner, and has done some really great work in the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian. So welcome, Erin.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, sure can.
You might hear my daughter singing in the background or dancing, so please excuse my daughter.
We love singing and dancing.
I do too. I am located in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and I am a disability advocate and a disability inclusion consultant. I am an above the knee amputee, so I use a wheelchair, crutches, or a prosthetic leg. I'm also an athlete. And I say all of this because a lot of times what we're still dealing with to date is persons feel that whether you're born with a disability or acquire a disability, that the potential stops somehow. But what I will agree with is having a disability removes your access and inclusion for a lot of things in our current structure of our society. And pre-COVID-19 here in the Bahamas, we weren't really doing well with making sure that we have things like inclusive education, access to healthcare, access to different protocols or emergency preparedness and planning. But we also, our policies, we do have a Disability Act, which had started in 2014, but even the act itself doesn't have adjustment orders, doesn't have any details or structures that you can hold on to talk about compliance and access. So COVID-19 for us in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas it's definitely become the equalizer, because now everybody is affected. Whether you have a disability or not, you're affected. But our community with disabilities are having a more damaging and struggling time because we're not understood. They don't know our policies, because our policies and the habits of our leaders have not been inclusive, even in dealing with an emergency or preparedness for COVID-19. Our emergency orders are now doing the same thing. Immediately, it removed continuing healthcare. It removed delivery, access to delivery, and organizations, our community organizations. And so in real time, we're now faced with how do we provide this through a system that just don't understand it. And so no, we're not getting the funding. Our community organizations have finally got the all clear to now, and I'm sorry if I'm talking so fast, I go speedy, so my apologies for that. I'll slow down. Our community organizations now have the all clear to make some type of movement, but we're still limited because caregivers are not being spoken to, are not given any PPEs, are not provided with the resources and tools. We're still not addressing specifically what it means for our community with disabilities, which includes senior citizens and vulnerable group members. Even that, not recognizing that our community is not just senior citizens. Like, the awareness and the education is so huge right now. And so my fear as a disability advocate and a disability inclusion consultant is we're losing people that we don't even realize we're losing. And so being on this call today is such a heart-moving space to be in right now. Herman and Shaylin, you know, I met them after Hurricane Dorian, and we've become now partnerships with making sure that the Bahamas now has access and inclusion for disaster and emergency. And just having a space like this has provided even me with the ability now to talk about policy, to say what needs to be done. And at the University of the Bahamas, I am in the Office of Disability and Compliance. That has never happened before. We're moving in real time, but we're still challenged because our leaders are not giving us the funding. They're not recognizing it. We're still fighting just to survive. And so thank you I'm available on social media, Erin Brown Connects. If you Google me, you'll find me. Everything is public. But I want to say to you, everyone that is on this call, we cannot give up. We cannot give up. We cannot give in. We have to continue to speak up and represent and be visible and be heard and encourage others to do the same in the spaces that they're in. So that is the vein we're moving through now. We work through a lot of all community organizations, whether you're disability centric or not. We work with them because we're teaching them how to give access and inclusion and how to diversify our economy during and after COVID-19. So thank you for allowing me to share a bit.
Thank you very much, Erin, and we look forward to continuing to work together, and we will never give up and we will never give in.
Thank you.
Kat, do we have our next speaker, please?
We do, Marcy. We have Marcely, and she is with Sustain Our Abilities.
Great. Hello. Oh, Marcely.
Marcely, I apologize.
That's okay. Hi, Marcely.
It says I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Yep,
Thanks.
you sure can.
Great. I will be very quick. I'm going to start my video, and I am.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to show a video.
Okay. Oh, it's not working. Okay.
Oh, you mean
here I am.
camera. I'm sorry. Yes, your
Nice.
camera's great. Your
Great.
camera.
Thanks for letting me speak. I'm very much happy to be here and appreciate the work you do, and Hector's and Shaylin and Carlos. I started an organization to focus on disability and education and care during disasters and climate change last year. We recently started a YouTube channel, and it's called Sustain Our Abilities. We brought people together from 10 countries or 12 now around the world, and we really want to share people's stories of living with COVID at home and also other disasters such as climate change. So I hope everyone would consider coming to sending me an email. It's sustainourabilities@gmail.com, because we're nonprofit, and also visiting the YouTube channel, which is Sustain Our Abilities. It is a combined effort of professionals and people with disabilities, and so we want to be as inclusive as possible and would love to collaborate with people, because I think the one thing I would like to say here is that this is, COVID is like a dress rehearsal. So much has been going on and so much will go on. And this is so important that we collaborate and all work together. So that's all I want to say. I don't want to take too much time, but thanks for everything you're doing. And please, it would be great if you could share a list of all the people involved so that people could continue to communicate to in the future. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Markley. Good to see you, and thanks.
You too.
I'm looking forward to making a visit over to Sustain Our Abilities.
Yes.
And Kat, who is our next speaker, please?
Our next speaker is Tiffany, who has joined us. And I think she might be our last, Marcy.
Oh, okay. I see some other folks who've asked. So.
Sure.
Okay.
Hey, Marcy.
Hi, Tiffany.
So Dory Tempio is also on the call with us today. We're both here from Able, South Carolina. And so I'm new in the role to work for advocating for persons with disabilities in emergency crisis situations. That's a new part of my position. It's a new role for me. And so first, I would like to say that our Center for Independent Living has been amazing. We've been able to reach out, we've gotten funding. When the school system said we can no longer work to transition with youth because the youth are going to be at home, our transition team put together a program to say, no, we're going to support the kids from our homes, and we're still going to help them do that. And that shows the way that our community adapts, and we do adapt. But one thing that I have found that our community struggles with is that we handle the situations as they come. And I think that's because they're constantly coming. And we don't necessarily read for what the policy doesn't say. We read for what it does say, but we don't read for what the policy does not say. And so I did a lot of work with the medical rationing response that we put together. And we used a lot of things that you wrote, Marcy, to research that. But what we realized when we were working with our local government agency was that they didn't have a policy that said that they would participate in medical rationing, but they refused to release a policy that said that they wouldn't either. And that's been what's been going on in a lot of states right now. So when we go back, when we have the opportunity to go back, one of the lessons that we need to look for is to make sure that things are clear when it says what they will do, but also what they won't do, and make sure that we read for what things don't say as much as what they do say. So that was just something that's been kind of on my heart since I've started this work.
Thank you very much, Tiffany. Appreciate you sharing that, and glad you're at Able, South Carolina, and you all keep doing great work. So,
thank you, Marcy, for all your support.
Absolutely. Thanks for yours.
Marcy, the next person in line is Hector. Hector, are you with us?
Wonderful. Hector Dulal.
Correct.
Wonderful. And we'll wait a minute for Hector to, there we go.
Hi, can you see me?
We can hear you, but we can't yet see you.
Okay.
There you are.
There I am. Hi. Thank you so much for this moment, just a brief moment. I just joined up working with Mark Lee Alexander there in Sustain Our Abilities. My name is Hector Dulal. I'm a social worker here in Central Florida. I've been quadriplegic from an automobile accident I had back in 1982. And since that time, I've felt like I've made a difference or continue to make a difference. I started out my advocacy work in the early 80s with President Reagan and raising the drinking age to 21 when I was injured when I was 17 years old. In regards to COVID-19 and in regards to this entire program, Marcy, you know, this is awesome that we're really trying to get the word out there. And in working with Sustaining Our Abilities, I think the important part is for people with disabilities to become active and learn how to advocate for themselves. Because if we continue to wait for others to advocate for us, you know, a lot of us are going to be left behind. So I'm going to shoot that out there and also just share with you that I'm an entrepreneur as well. I've done a lot of public speaking in the past. I plan to do that again. And I believe that because of COVID-19, I think telehealth is just going to take off like crazy. But the issue is now is to focus on those low income individuals that don't have even the capacity to even do what we're doing today, that do not have a tablet, that do not even have a cell phone, and so forth. So I'm going to be working really hard this year, not only with Dr. Alexander, but also with what we've done here in Central Florida. We put together a Zoom video chats in the last 30 days. We're actually finishing up our last week now. And what it is, it's a Zoom chat to invite professionals, doctors, in any way that you're being affected by COVID-19, whether it's financially, whether it's by your health, or even just being alone. And mental health is not getting enough attention that we really need it to. So I'm also partnering up with Dr. Ruddick, Dr. Maxine Ruddick, who has her own programs in telehealth, but also in mental health. And so that's just my piece of what I can do as an individual with a disability, and see what else I could do more by uniting with you guys and just working with you guys. Thank you so much for a few moments to share that.
Thank you very much, Hector. Appreciate it. Kat, do we have other folks in the queue?
We sure do. We have Kelly Israel, who is from ASAN. Kelly, are you there?
Yeah, I am here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. I do not want to start my video. I have my reasons, just accept that.
Absolutely.
Thank you all for this forum today. Largely, ASAN hasn't been working with direct services during the pandemic, but we have been doing a whole lot of information sharing. We have consistently been on, me specifically, on the Partnership for Inclusive Disaster Strategies daily COVID-19 calls to try and pick up information for our affiliates and for other people with disabilities we're in contact with about what's going on in the COVID-19 front. We have recently released a COVID-19 congregate setting tracker, which tracks the number of COVID-19 cases in residents and in congregate settings, so group homes, assisted living facilities, nursing homes, developmental centers, anywhere where large groups of people with disabilities are clustered together. We feel that because this data is publicly available, actually the partnership is trying to collect the data on this that isn't publicly available as a separate issue with their survey. But because this data is publicly available, we feel like it gives us a good picture of just how many of our people, we're also tracking deaths as well, who are getting sick and dying among the disabled population to the degree that we can assist. We are also producing resources and advice on COVID-19 in partnership with Green Mountain Self-Advocates, which we have released on Green Mountain Self-Advocates' website for the most part. We're trying to get plain language resources out there on COVID-19. We also produced a video which explains what COVID-19 is to people with intellectual and cognitive disabilities, and as well as what they should do if they suspect they have COVID-19, or what they can do to protect themselves from COVID-19. Largely what ASAN is doing is trying to make sure that people with disabilities ourselves, who so often have limited access to information, have the information they need to weather the COVID-19 pandemic. And yeah, that's what we're up to. We really appreciate all the work that's being done both internationally and elsewhere on the ground to try and combat this for our community, for people with disabilities. Nothing about us without us, and best of luck to everyone.
Thank you, Kelly. I have the very good fortune of being together with you just about every night at 6 p.m. when we join the Partnership for Inclusive Disaster Strategies calls, and your leadership and your contributions are really important.
All right, by the way.
I'm so sorry.
And Kat, do we have somebody else in queue?
We do not have anyone else in queue at the moment.
Okay.
We do have one last poll if you'd like.
I'm gonna ask for, are there any other folks who were wanting to say anything?
I do have Dina. Let's see.
Yes, Dina. Okay. Dina is asking for some help to turn on her.
I think I'm doing it now. Okay.
Very good. There you go.
Okay. Hi. Well, my name is Dina Abramson. I am not with a nonprofit. I'm with a state agency in Texas. And I hadn't really planned to speak today, so I'm a little nervous. But I'm going to try to be brief. I just kind of wanted to outline some of the problems that I see, especially in Texas, working with the disability community. I did a presentation recently for my organization staff meeting. And so I talked about a couple of things, attendant care being one of them. The fact that attendants are having to be out in the community, they're having to work in very close contact with their clients, often without adequate PPE, and obviously very low wages. We actually heard of an attendant who quit her job because she could make more money filing for unemployment than for keeping her job. So attendant care is one problem. Access to food and medication. I am on some organizations that are working with food access, but I'm afraid that a lot of people are falling through the cracks, because you can get assistance if you're indigent. You can get assistance if you're homeless. But if you're a person with a disability or a senior who used to be independent and now can't be independent because of the pandemic, there aren't as many resources for people like that. They're basically told, well, see if a neighbor will help you, or see if a family member will help you. But there aren't organizations set up. And one of the things that's just baffling to me is that there's so much emergency planning. And now that we actually have an emergency, where are the organizations set up to help people with disabilities? It's now 6-7 weeks into the pandemic, and people are finally starting to say, oh, well, some people with disabilities don't have transportation to go to pick up food. Like there's the Central Texas Food Bank. There's food banks that are providing food, but you have to drive up to it. And if you don't have transportation, you don't have a car, how are you going to get to these places that are giving out food? Another big problem is virus testing. In Texas and probably other states, a lot of the virus testing is drive-through. You drive up, they swab your nose. If you don't have transportation, you're not going to be able to get a COVID-19 test, especially if you're having symptoms, because no public transportation is going to take you to get a virus test. And then let me see if there was one other. So access to food and medication, attendant care, transportation, and then somebody else touched on the very important topic of mental health and social isolation, which I think, social isolation was already a problem for many people with disabilities and seniors. And now it's an even bigger problem now that we have to stay home. And I'm going to be meeting with some people locally in about a half an hour to discuss the fact that Texas and many other states are reopening. And that's going to create a whole new set of problems, because that's going to increase the amount of infection. Texas is like at the bottom of testing. So this, as I'm telling everybody, this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. It's going to go on for a while, and I just am very concerned that a lot of the needs of people with disabilities are not being addressed. So I just kind of wanted to bring up some of that information.
Dina, thank you very much. I think you raised many of the issues that we have as well been raising. And I give you lots of credit as a state employee in raising these issues. We really welcome the opportunity to work together on this. And as many of the other speakers have, reinforced, 6 weeks out is too late. This is a continual problem. And one of the reasons that we've started this discussion is to surface the fact that we can't reinvent the wheel every time. There are organizations who can do great work, who are doing great work, who never seem to benefit from what I often refer to as the humanitarian industrial complex. Lots of money gets put out there. Very little of it drips down to disability-led organizations. I think we have time for one last speaker, Kat, if we...
We sure do. We have Melissa. There you go.
Hi,
Hey,
Melissa.
Marcy.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Hey, everybody. It's good to be back with the crew. I'm Melissa Ortiz, and I was an independent activist for several years, and then I was appointed by President Trump to be the Commissioner of the Administration on Disability. Turns out I'm not an administrator, but I am an advocate, and I do know how to get things done. So I am working independently now and loving this. The White House has contacted me privately, and they are asking for the information that you guys are putting out. I have many dear friends who are in upper management positions at the White House who are asking for this information, and believe me when I tell you that I have beat them up 6 ways to Sunday about having an ASL interpreter at pressers and talking about people with disabilities and disabled people instead of people who are vulnerable. They've heard it all from me. So this helps me be able to give them something to say, hey, this is what the community wants. And I don't know if this will ever come to fruition, but I am working on getting a roundtable discussion together on some of these things and having at the table some people who will be able to help us move this forward within the White House. So that's where we are. You can reach me. I am on Instagram and Twitter as DC Bell on Wheels. And I can't believe looking at the camera that I'm actually on this camera with no makeup on, but we will laugh at me later about that. It's B-E-L-L-L, DCBELLL on Wheels. And that's Twitter, Instagram, and then my email account is mkortiz317@gmail.com. My first and middle initial with Ortiz 317@gmail.com. And I am really excited about working with all of you. One of the other things that's very much in my heart to do is to pull in the civic and faith-based communities. Those organizations are already in place. We have organizations in place to deal with things like this, but nobody's talking to each other. So I am hoping to start some of those discussions. And I'm proud, Marcy, of the work that you and Whit are doing. Quick shout out to my friend Loretta Harrington for always keeping me in the loop. And I am just excited to partner with you guys.
Thank you very much, Melissa. And we welcome every opportunity to collaborate and to focus on people with disabilities, the people who are multi-marginalized and are always at the end of the line when organizations are trying to support humanitarian action. So we all must collaborate, and we must prioritize those organizations led by people with disabilities.
Yes.
Focusing on the whole community and working together to make not only change for this time around, but working together to build a system that doesn't leave people without food, that doesn't leave people in congregate
exactly
institutional settings
and
without their ability to protect themselves.
Exactly. And I don't think that it's a lack of caring. I think it's a lack of understanding. And I think that we need to have these conversations when the temperature is low in the room, and have the conversations in such a way that everybody understands. And I think that there has been an issue lately of having conversations when everybody is upset. And this is terrifying, all this stuff that's going on. And I actually had to say to someone who I know is one of the smartest people I know, look, how would you feel if you were told that the durable medical equipment company was coming to your house to take your child's ventilator away? And the person said, well, I wouldn't allow that to happen to my child. And I said, honey, you don't have a choice when you have a contract. And that was eye-opening.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And bottom line, right now, as we speak, our people are dying in droves.
Yes, and that is not okay.
That's right. So I'm now going to wrap us up. This has been an amazing discussion, and we are actually a couple of minutes over time. So I hope this was helpful. We're going to ask one more polling question, and this is an especially important final question. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Kat to bring up the final question.
Yes.
And while it's up, I will, Kat?
There we go. It has been launched. The question is, would you find it useful to continue participating in discussions on disaster relief funding for disability-led organizations? We have two answers, yes and no. And I can see the results coming in. Give it a few minutes.
And while Kat is waiting for the results, I want to thank everybody for joining us, for participating. We've had a huge number of participants, most of whom have stayed throughout. We had folks from, I think, 21 different countries. And we certainly have our work cut out for us. What you can expect from here, we will be posting today's town hall meeting on our website and on YouTube. It will be captioned. We will continue to dialogue with everyone. We'll be, depending on the outcome of the final poll, we may do this again real soon. Thanks to everybody for your contributions. Thanks to our interpreters, thanks to our captioner, and a wonderful, wonderful WID team. We anticipate that our continued focus on disrupting exclusion and accelerating radical inclusion is something that folks might join us and get excited about. Kat, do we have our results?
We sure do. I will go ahead and end the polling, but we have a 96% yes and 4% no. So it looks like the overarching majority thinks we need to have a lot more conversations about this.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Well, then count on the fact that this is just the beginning. Thank you all very much. And more importantly than talk, this is the beginning of action. Talk is not enough. Be safe, be well, and never give up, never give in. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.